Seen anything like the devastation that is being reported in Gaza. Missiles and bombs designed to fight modern armies are being used on a captive civilian population with nowhere to escape. And now, the medieval siege tactic of starvation is being used to force the spirit, to break the spirit of the people of Gaza. Do you know what it's like to survive the bombing of your house, only to have your refugee tent burned and watch your family die in flames? Do you know what it is like to have your limbs shredded and have no place to go to have them mended? Do you know what it is like to watch your children starve and not be able to save them? Do you know what it is like to starve to the point where the body begins to digest its own vital organs and reaches a point where not even the best medical care can save you? We do. Ask our colleagues who are seeing these things firsthand. As doctors, our duty is to preserve life. As journalists, yours is to discover and report the truth. I am here because both of our professions, like everything else precious in Gaza, has been under unprecedented assault. Shockingly, 1,800 healthcare workers have been killed in Gaza, according to ReliefWeb. Compare that with the vastly larger war in Ukraine, going on a year longer, where only 61 health workers have been killed as of February of this year. Similarly, over 200 journalists have been killed in Gaza, an historical first, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists. To put that in perspective, only 67 correspondents of war were killed in all of World War II, a global conflict involving tens of millions of soldiers. So I have two questions for you journalists working in legacy media. First, why isn't the regular reporting of these heinous crimes against doctors and journalists being reported a priority? The world needs to know this. Second, why settle for opinions over facts? When you give airtime to pundits and politicians who deny there's a genocide, who denies there's starvation, who say that healthcare workers and journalists are not targeted, you are simply peddling opinion. There is no need for us to argue over opinion. The call of the journalist is to report the reality on the ground. If you want facts, go to Gaza yourselves and report the truth. If you think it is too dangerous, I and my colleagues are prepared to accompany you.
Welcome to the DC Frenchman Show, guys, here on YouTube.
Truth is the vanguard.
They're having a demonstration out here in front of the NBC News.
You are the front line
in front of the Capitol,
truth.
which you can see at the tip, at
this
the top of my screen.
Genocide
it's behind the screen.
Has got to stop before it destroys the fabric of our society. We beg you
Like, share, and subscribe, $ DC Frenchman is my cash app.
To stop repeating the stale talking points of those accused of perpetrating these horrors and demand access to report the truth from Palestine itself. If access to your doing that is denied by Israel, broadcast that fact to the world. If it's denied by your bosses at these stations, take your talents where they would be better appreciated and much needed. Please join us in saying, feed the starving, stop the killing, not another hour, not another bomb, not another child, never again for anyone. Please.
A demonstration out here
On
in front
Sunday,
of the Capitol, guys.
we disrupted
Here in
several live
Washington, D.C. at
broadcasts
NBC News.
that took place in these windows directly
C-SPAN over here
adjacent to
too,
where we are.
as you can see.
And one of the interviews on Sunday on Fox News was with the chairman of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, a sham entity that is weaponizing starvation as a weapon of war to lure starving Palestinians into death traps. This has been documented by U.S. mercenaries This has been documented by the people hired to do this work. And yet these buildings continue to platform the very perpetrators, engineers, and people who create this atrocity, where hundreds of people are shot for simply trying to retrieve bags of flour for their starving children, parents, grandparents. Yet we continue to platform genocide deniers who criticize the very aid organizations that these very media outlets also dehumanized. That is why we are here. That is what this is. This is not cosplay. This is a reality that people in these buildings refuse to broadcast. And I want to just make sure that we understand that our voices have power. And with that, I want to invite Max Blumenthal, an independent journalist and founder of The Gray Zone, which has done its part to highlight the atrocities. In times like this, citizen journalism out of Gaza, courageous citizen journalism out of Gaza, including people like Bisan, people like Wissam, all the folks that are documenting, Mu'taz, the photographers that are risking their lives to show the world what it is refusing to show. It is breaking through. It will continue to break through. Max?
Thank you everybody for being out here. What is it? On day 660 and something of the Holocaust of our time. Thank you to Hazami Barada and her crew for being out there consistently outside Kibbutz, what they called Kibbutz Blinken, the home of one of the worst war criminals of our time, Tony Blinken, former Secretary of State, Secretary of Genocide. What they have done in our city, in the heart of the beast, is nothing short of heroic, and they are leading the way for activists around the world. This is a moral test. This is really the moral test of our time. And the media has not only failed in this moral test, they have been at the heart of the immoral, satanic force that is not only slaughtering families in Gaza, but which is destroying our own society by criminalizing us, trying to silence our voices, even cutting off funding for disaster aid, all for a psychotic foreign apartheid state. And it's happening all across the supposedly democratic West, and the corporate media is at the center of this. I'm speaking here on behalf of those of us in the West and independent media who are prematurely correct. We were wrongly correct. We were right before it was allowed. We were right that CNN was lying when they put up on a chyron that 40 babies had been beheaded by Hamas. We were right when right-wing Zionist journalists started claiming that Hamas had baked babies in ovens on October 7th, citing fraudulent rescue organizations like Zaka and United Hatzalah. We were right when we called out the New York Times for its phony front-page investigation claiming that Palestinian resistance groups on October 7th committed mass rape against Jewish women. They never produced any survivors. They never produced any forensic evidence. They never produced any credible police investigations. They never produced anything to the point where they had to change the entire definition. And the New York Times never even corrected its piece when virtually all of its eyewitnesses were proven to be frauds. What they do correct, though, and issue a clarification on, is that an emaciated child, Mohammed Zakaria al-Mutawik, who is living in a tent with his mother, whose father was killed on the beach in Gaza City, who suffers from a muscular condition, who cannot get enough milk, which worsens his muscle condition, they issued a correction, noting that that child had a pre-existing condition, caving to Zionists who accused the New York Times of an anti-Semitic blood libel for showing that child on the front page. Because what? What? We're supposed to accept the death of the Untermenschen? That's what they're claiming, and the New York Times caved to them, but made no correction on any of these phony investigations which we exposed. We also exposed Israel's killing of hundreds of its own citizens on October 7th through the Hannibal Directive. And for these exposés, for being prematurely correct, we at the Gray Zone were attacked, but twice. Feature-length article by the Bill-owned Washington Post, which falsely accused us of being funded by Russia and Iran. The Washington Post is an enemy of the people. And we were attacked by Haaretz, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times. The supposed liberal, enlightened, peace-loving public of Israel for being prematurely right. Then what did Haaretz do? They turn around and declare, oh, wait a minute, we've uncovered copious evidence that Israel fired on dozens and dozens of vehicles on October 7th containing Jewish Israeli citizens, and that it had free fire orders to open fire everywhere, and it actually enacted a mass Hannibal Directive. They never said the independent media was right. No. Why was this? How can we understand this dynamic? What was taking place in the days and the weeks and the months after October 7th was the media was fulfilling its traditional role, the corporate media, in manufacturing consent for genocide, in manufacturing consent for war. And once they finally got the public to go along with it, or to shut down, or to be afraid of challenging their lies, and the Israeli genocide machine was cranked into full gear, destroying northern Gaza, pushing the population south, moving into Rafah for that destruction, and we were warning, this is a genocide, full Auschwitz is coming next. Then they can start admitting that some of the narratives that they had spun out were incorrect, because the damage had already been done. It is always that way with the corporate media and their retroactive morality.
All right, guys.
And that's why they,
like, share, and subscribe to the DC Frenchman Show on YouTube.
Are now finally starting to acknowledge that Israel might be doing some
where you get all your DC news that just may not make the national news. I'm here for you.
Look at this New York Times headline from last month. Gaza residents are starving. They're just hungry. I don't know who could possibly be starving them. It's just like the headline that they pumped out in January 2024. Violence breaks out at Gaza aid site. That's where Israel massacred dozens of people seeking flour at an aid site in northern Gaza. They've been starving people for months and years now. Oh, violence just broke out. It was like a Jerry Springer show. Let's bring out the bodyguards because the DNA test shows that the baby's daddy was actually not. You all have a nice evening. The New York Times has referred to schools that were bombed housing war refugees as ex-schools. Like the school transitioned. Like it's not a school anymore, and its new pronouns are Hamas Command and Control Center.
Hit that like button, share, guys.
Dead name the school.
I'm gone.
This is the ridiculous.